All right. Well, I hope that you all can see me and hear me clearly now. I hope so. I'm going to check just for my peace of mind to make sure that we're all good. Okay. So, think we're all good. We're ready to go. Sweet Jesus. Okay. So I've been trying to get the live stream to work. Interestingly enough, my live stream isn't working. It's saying that on my end everything is perfectly fine, but on YouTube, it does not read the signals that I'm sending from my computer into the server for YouTube. This is actually the second time this has happened, which is now pretty weird considering it was working just fine before I left to New England and now it's not working at all. So I'll have to figure that out on another time. But I do want to thank you all for joining. If you all could share this, we greatly appreciate it. And as most of you all know by now, Tim Canova has announced that he is going to be running as an independent against Debbie Wasserman Schultz and whoever the Republican opponent may be during the general election in the South Florida, Broward County, I believe 23rd district. So, what is the significance of this? Well, there's actually a lot that needs to be talked about. Well, one, people are a little bit upset because, well, there are some people in the Democratic Party that call themselves progressives who are expecting people like Tim Canova to remain in the Democratic Party. And the reason why it's significant to them, because they've built their connections in the Democratic Party. They've been working their way up, and they of course are hoping that once they get to a certain level, and once they get particular candidates elected, progressives, that they will now have a way into the upper echelons of the party. You know, they're worried about career progression as much as anybody else, unfortunately. Not that it's a bad thing, but in certain settings, it can be a bad thing. And it can obscure one's judgment. Thinking that Tim Canova running as an independent means that it's the end of the world for any progressive who works in the Democratic Party is simply false. It's misleading, and it sounds like if you believe that, then you may not be as educated in political strategy as you may believe, or as people may have led you to, or may have led you to believe. Let me explain something. Tim Canova's situation is pretty damn unique in a lot of ways. Tim Canova had to run independent, and Tim Canova is smart to run independent. He's in a district where Debbie Wasserman Schultz is not a little hated, but a lot of hated. She is extremely disliked by not only by not only Republicans, but many Democrats as well. This shouldn't be news to any of you. Damn sure isn't news to myself. Now, why would Tim Canova decide to run in a Democratic primary where ballots can be destroyed and no one is held accountable? Do you hear how silly that sounds? Tim Canova has raised a lot of money over the last couple of years. And even though he's taken a dip in fundraising to a degree because it is the midterm elections and fundraising is traditionally low during midterm elections, it is important to remember that Tim Canova is one of the few that have challenged election rigging in the entire country. And even though there have been many that pushed back against him, including progressives, Tim Canova has still been very outspoken and even has a program dedicated to ensuring that election fraud is not an issue. But in the Democratic Party, Tim Canova is well aware that at this juncture, there is no way that he is going to be able to hold them accountable in time for him to win an election. Those are two different things right now. I know it sounds crazy, but it is. Him getting accountability for Debbie Wasserman Schultz destroying those ballots from 2016's election is not parallel. It is not running counter to him winning office. He has to make whatever decisions he can right now to make sure that the people who have donated to his campaign, the people who have put the time into his campaign, are not going to be wasting their money. He wants a legitimate chance of winning. So what does him launching himself into or rebranding himself as an independent do? Well, for one, it restores confidence, because there are a lot of people who, although they love Tim Canova, absolutely refuse to donate to his campaign simply because they do not trust the Democratic Party. And I think that, well, they have a right not to trust the Democratic Party. But on the other side of that fence, there's also the reality that now Tim Canova no longer has to compete in a corrupt, rigged primary. He simply has to compete in the rigged general election. But although the general election may be rigged, it is going to be a lot harder for the Democrats to rig it against Tim Canova than it would be for Tim Canova to have, for the Republicans to rig it against Tim Canova, because of the demographics of Broward County and the district that Tim Canova is running in. The truth of the matter is, there's not a significant number of people of color, and there's only so much you can gerrymander a district that is pretty high as far as the average income, average median income for the families that live in Broward County, specifically in the 23rd district. So it's a whole. He even said it in our interview, which I'll post. Should be posting it tomorrow. But he even said himself, "I'm not telling everyone to run as a Democrat. I'm saying because of my situation, because of my particular election, because of what I am dealing with, the smart thing to do would be to run as an independent." And I 100% agree with him. He now no longer has to waste resources, by the way, trying to beat Debbie Wasserman Schultz when he knows as well as we do it is totally rigged in her favor. Okay? Now, I hope that there are people across the country who will actually take after Tim Canova's example. Not everybody. Each race is different. But if you are running out of, for example, like Marie Newman, who is running out of Chicago and Illinois, the best thing for Marie Newman to have done would probably have been to run as an independent. Why? Because Marie Newman got screwed. They took votes away from her literally at the last second, even though she was winning. Screenshots, people saw it. It's not a surprise to anyone. If she would have ran as an independent, all of a sudden she has a little bit more clout. She's not, bound by the laws of the Democratic Party and the Democratic consultants. She when she files for election fraud and election, say, for example, it's suspected that the Democrats may have rigged the election. All of a sudden, or she can actually reach out to the Republicans and say, hey, I want to do an audit, which I believe everybody should be doing. And then they'd be more likely to work with them because, well, the Republicans and Democrats are really not friends right now. A little bit more than not friends. But districts like that one, like Tim Canova's 23rd district, you have to try different tactics. And I'm not, like I said, this is not me suggesting that every single candidate leave their particular district, because if you're in a small town with not a lot of clout, there's a chance that your elections aren't going to be rigged. It's the big elections that have with endorsement power, if you get what I'm saying. If Rahm Emanuel is the mayor of Chicago, so he has endorsement power. Now, if Rahm Emanuel is the mayor out, and not only endorsement power, but industrial power, because his signature can approve of a lot within the city of Chicago, which is a major big money player. But if he was in a small town with not much endorsement power, it would be kind of silly for Democrats to spend a lot of resources and significant resources rigging it. It's the same thing with Tim Canova. Tim Canova is running in the district with the second largest school education funding in the country. This school district is massive, and they get millions, $3-4 million a year for their school district. That's a big money player. Not to mention Debbie Wasserman Schultz has a lot of dirt on a lot of different people. And so her leaving office, and not securing her security going forward may actually put her in a position to start snitching on people. So it's best if Tim Canova tries a different approach. Nobody has ever, no successful country, battalion, brigade has ever won a war trying the exact same battle strategy on every single front that they are fighting on. And with that in mind, I think that it's important to understand that Tim Canova does have a responsibility to make sure that he does what he can to win. He tried one method before. It was not successful. I heard someone suggest something as silly as, well, maybe he should knock on more doors. If he knocks on more doors, then he'll have a much better chance of winning. That is silly because she can destroy ballots at will and have nobody like hold her accountable. Knocking on doors is just laughable at this point. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I will post an interview with myself and Tim Canova here within the next couple of days. As you all know, I was in New England, so I was pretty busy. But I am back, and I'm excited. We have a huge week ahead of us. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, always remember, find your balance. Peace.